is that icons can mean different things in different places. So if the meaning of the icon isn't visible, or it gives the wrong message to someone for whom the icon is unfamiliar or has a different interpretation, it's obviously not going to do what you want it to do. And the example that this quote had, which I thought you all would appreciate before I show you another one, is that an icon that shows the palm of an upraised hand, it indicates halt in the United States, but signifies here's excrement in your face in Greece.
That'd make you stop.
Yeah. Might give you a slightly different result than what you were going for. So here is a very visible icon. It is taking over the internet. No matter where you go, you're going to see the like symbol. Whether you actually like it or not, it is everywhere. In the US and in a lot of countries in the world, the thumbs up symbol means okay, good. They might use it for hitchhiking. It's not a bad thing. But if you go to Turkey, they don't use it at all. This would mean absolutely nothing to them without the word next to it. If you go to Iraq, Iran, and Thailand, it is considered extremely obscene. And if you go to Australia, depending on the slight variations in movement that are associated with the thumbs up, it can be interpreted as either good or an insult. So if you go to one of these countries and they have their computer set up to either be in their own language and this word doesn't translate, or they have it in English and they don't actually know the language very well and all they can see is that icon, it's not quite going to give the same thing that Facebook wants it to. In fact, they're probably going to wonder why they're making so many obscene gestures at this person's comment, and quite possibly decide that they don't ever want to go to Facebook again because it is full of obscenities. Again, not what Facebook is going to want for their website. So going off of that familiarity with icons and symbols, can anyone guess what one of these icons might mean? But if you were on a website, because these are web icons that I found for the presentation.
DNA. But don't they have to be in context on one page, or because like
They
if I saw
could.
even like a play button, just a triangle, but I know exactly what it is when it's on a PCR. They look cool.
They did do a pretty good job of making them.
They mean nothing.
They mean nothing to us. Yeah, they're familiar images. Like we have all seen the bow and arrow. You know, hey, look at it's a target with an arrow sticking out of it. Someone did a really good job shooting it. The double helix is DNA. We know what a magnet is, a speedometer, all of those. But out of even in context, they may not. And I haven't seen them in context. I pulled them from an icon site, but while we may know what the symbol is, what it means to that website may not automatically be available. And there's another quote that I found that was from Jessica Newman Beck, and she says, "Web iconography instantly denotes certain site elements. It's important to appeal to the viewer's sense of familiarity here. A custom set of icons has a certain cachet, but if your ideogram is too obscure, it will fail to communicate the desired message." So it becomes very important when we're choosing icons to use on a website that the icons are not only familiar in what the shape is, which isn't always true, but it also is a close enough tie in that metaphoric message that the user can easily distinguish what that icon is supposed to do in the context of that site. So they're nice, they're pretty, but they may not actually do what the people want them to do, especially if there aren't labels included with them. And then we come to this guy. We've all seen this icon. He's been around for a while. And the one problem with him is, who's used a actual 3.5-inch disc in the recent past?
I have some still.
But have you used them recently?
Oh no, you just asked if we used it.
But I hadn't finished my question
What do you
yet.
consider
So,
recent past?
how about in the last year?
Maybe.
Maybe?
I think
How many people don't even have computers that will read a 3.5-inch anymore? I would guess most of us in the room, the computers that we use the majority of the time, don't really read these anymore. It's actually
we have a reader that we can plug into any, but my computer does have a copy.
So
I'm telling you, it has
The last time I used
Is
the
it custom?
copy was the Flashnet BIOS, so I could use RAID.
So it's not something that we're going to use on a regular basis, though. We've all switched mostly to other memory sources for it. Now I know several of you guys have kids, so take a 6 or 7-year-old. They all use the computer now pretty much, especially if they have them in their classrooms, which most of them do at this point. They see this symbol, and what does it mean to them?
Save.
Do they actually know why it means save, though? Those of us that grew up using them, I remember having to save on this, and when I forgot to save and the hard drive crashed, the pain of having to retype everything because I hadn't saved it on my disk. But to the kids that are growing up now, this is just a symbol that they show on the page. Our symbols are that we're using for our icons are starting to become archaic in that respect because of how fast technology is moving. Which there were a couple of tweets, and I have a few more images that are going to tie into this, but there are a couple of tweets that Brandon Dawes, he works on interface-related things, had recently, and one of them was, ever notice how many iPhone icons use analog objects? Phone, envelope, etc. We are wedded to the comfort of familiar objects. And he followed up with, yet how many kids growing up these days will know why an icon for a phone is shaped like that? So we know we call this a floppy. We know that this means save. But even amongst people that are familiar with the 3.5-inch floppy, I don't even know that it actually is called a floppy because the original diskette was floppy. Because this one, it's not actually floppy. Anyone that's had one of those, yeah, you can wave it, but it's a pretty solid little piece of plastic.
If you take the plastic out, it's floppy inside.
Says the system admin who's probably taken them apart for fun.
Over the sliding door down at the bottom there.
However, in one piece, before you dissect it, it's not floppy like this one
High school
is.
computer teachers are against that on principle, playing with the little
Right.
door for some
I
reason.
can't imagine why that might be, Matt.
Go figure.
So, to those 6, 7, 8-year-olds, this is a much more common symbol of saving something. This is what they would actually put it on, and they would not even be able to imagine when you could only save 100K onto something. Because 8 gigs, that's easy to get. Why would I need more? Or less? Why would I buy any less? What on earth would you do with something that would only save 100K? That won't even put a picture on it. And yet, this is the symbol that we see predominantly for saving still today, even though that hasn't changed, because it's become part of our iconographic memory as a culture and our language with icons.
You can compress the floppy to like 3 megs.
So, getting back to the subject of
Program used to scan them,
icons.
too, over 50 discs.
That's right.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Yeah. So, what are icons good for then? Obviously, we've discussed mostly why they have issues that we run into. They can aid both scanning and orientation. Once you've educated the user onto what the icon means, like that 3.5-inch, then they know from that point on that that means save. Even I found yesterday while working in PowerPoint, I didn't know what the toolbox was until it showed me because it disappeared and it zoomed right into it. It was a great little feature. But until someone's been educated on those things, until they've reached that intermediate or advanced status as a user, the icons mean nothing to them. They're just pretty pictures on the page. They might help break up text, but that's about it. And they completely ignore them. They have icon blindness. Icons can facilitate the user's ability to learn, understand, and remember functional elements of the site. Part of this ties into the way that we remember things. We do remember images, and so therefore, once we have that icon in our memory, we'll scan for the icon once we've done the word scan across the page. And they also potentially increase the clickable area of a navigation option. So if you have the label and the icon, it's a much larger area to click and catch with your mouse than having just the one or the other. And the last quote that I had is, images are the main content of our thoughts, regardless of the sensory modality in which they are generated, and regardless of whether they are about a thing or a process involving things about words or other symbols. we do store much of our memories as images. If you think about some memory that really stands out to you, some either happy memory, sad memory, it's usually going to have an image associated with it, especially if it's from further away. And if you think about people that have talked about experiences where they describe their life flashing before their eyes, it's not a series of things being said necessarily, it's not a series of words, it's actual images of things that they've seen in their lives, because that's part of how our brain actually stores these things. So icons can be useful. They have their place, but we can't depend on them alone to really give our users the information that they need to have about us. With our functions, with the things that we build, with our website, anything that we do in technology, they do need to have some education, and labels are a really wonderful thing. So do you guys have any questions?